I think both Jim Clapper and I were aghast when we saw that the leaders of the intelligence community were pushing out this information that was taken from that period of time, declassified and pushed out, and then they make these outrageous claims and allegations. It is critically important to remember that the Russians interfered in the 2016 election. They tried to undermine the integrity of the election. They tried to hurt Hillary Clinton. They thought Hillary was going to win the election, but they wanted to bloody her both before and after the election. But they also wanted to help Donald Trump's prospects of being elected. And so they had this influence campaign using information operations. They put out bots and personas and hacked into emails, the DNC, the Democratic National Committee, and others, and pushed them out through WikiLeaks and other types of things. It was restricted to the influence operations. Yes, they did some exploratory work looking at some of the technical infrastructure of our electoral system, but they didn't change any votes. And the intelligence community assessment that we wrote back then, that the analysts wrote, said that we didn't have any information whatsoever about what the impact was on the election. That intelligence community assessment never mentioned the word collusion. Not at all. So what they do is they misrepresent the facts, mischaracterize what is said, and then claim that we were engaged in this big conspiracy. Well, as Simone pointed out, President Obama told us, make sure you don't do anything at all that is going to any way affect the outcome of that election. Don't do anything. And make sure that you don't get these reports released that named individuals, had American citizens' names in them. And so we did our utmost to make sure that we carried out our responsibilities with the integrity that we're supposed to. Between Jim Clapper and myself, we have had over 80 years of intelligence community experience. We took our roles very, very seriously, our responsibilities. And so therefore, we want to make sure that we're able to put out this intelligence community assessment at President Obama's direction that captured exactly what the Russians were doing, because as we said in the piece, this is a warning. The Russians have done this for many, many years. They don't just do it here in the United States. They try to affect the outcome of these democratic elections.
They tried it in France, right after the 2016 election.
Yeah, they've had a history of doing that. And if the Republicans under Trump continue to say that this was a hoax, despite the fact that Marco Rubio,
I was going to say,
the current Secretary of State, and Tom Cotton, the current chairman of the Senate Committee, Intelligence Committee, were part of the committee when they put out this review that basically embraced and validated everything that we did. So there have been serious reviews done on this issue over the last 8 years.
By Republicans.
By Republicans, by Democrats, by others. And now the leaders of this administration, the intelligence community, are pushing these things out. And clearly, I think it's an effort to deflect.
You have, Director Brennan, the list of people that Donald Trump says should be targeted: Barack Obama, Joe Biden, John Brennan, you're familiar with him, James Clapper, James Comey, Kamala Harris, Beyonce, Oprah Winfrey, Al Sharpton, quote, others to be named. What does that tell you about from the nature of this list, this combination of political leaders, former president, as well as folks in entertainment? And civil rights activists, folks who sort of reflect back the culture and the times that we live in, and Donald Trump is not happy about that.
Well, it's quite obvious that he is quite sensitive, and he doesn't like anybody to criticize him, or, in fact, to bring out facts against him. And so I think the people on that list have spoken out, have been willing to actually say when something is done is wrong by the Trump administration. And so it's clear that there is a vindictiveness, a punitive nature to what he's trying to do with these policies and with these actions. But quite frankly, I'm not going to be intimidated because they're going to be pushing things out there that are false. And they're maintaining this false narrative about what the intelligence community did. And I like to stand up for the intelligence professionals. And that's why it's really quite unfortunate that a former director of CIA and a former director of national intelligence are at odds with the current directors of the men and women of the intelligence community who do such tremendous work to try to keep us all safe. And so it's so unfortunate that partisan politics has now seeped into the highest levels of the intelligence community. And that's why I think it's important for us to continue to speak out and trying to at least push out information about what actually did happen back in 2016 and what can continue to happen if we still ignore what the Russians do with our elections.
You know what I think is so important about the fact that Director Brennan, the Clapper, that even James Comey, right, who have all spoken out when being targeted by the president, is that the intelligence community professionals, usually this is not what they do. It's like the military.
Right.
You know, they're
They
like,
hate the public conversation.
they don't do political conversations, okay? Y'all know Director Brennan comes up on the table and he's like, I'm just going to tell you what I know. I'm not going to give you any extra.
They don't criticize their successors.
You don't criticize your successors, but what is notable to me and why I think it's so important is that you all are living with the reality and the recognition that this is not normal, that something existential is happening within our government. And from my perspective, to me, that says that's why you all are speaking out. And I think you all raising your voices and not staying silent could perhaps encourage others to stand up and do the same.